Good morning. Welcome to First Parish in Framingham. We are a Unitarian-Universalist congregation, and we are a welcoming congregation. We believe that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. That means no matter whom you love, how you move around in the world, your race, your age, your gender, your beliefs, no matter where you are on your life journey, you, each and every one of you, is welcome here. My name is Kevin Stern. I use they, them pronouns, and I am your worship associate this morning. Please be sure to read the announcements in the order of service, and also be sure to put your phone and other devices that make noise to their quietest setting. While beeps and buzzes can be distracting, we welcome your human noises, your cooing, your laughter, and especially your singing. And after the service, please join us across the courtyard in Scott Hall for coffee and whatever food is left over from the breakfast this morning. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We know it takes a lot of courage to try out a new religious community, and we look forward to getting to know you better. And if this is the religious community you call your own, welcome home. Let us release all that we need to let go of in order to be more fully present to yourself, to one another, and perhaps the sacred in this time and place. We light our chalice this morning with these words by Reverend Erica Hewitt. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we'll never be done with the work of telling the truth about oppression, the work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity, the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine in each other no matter what, the work of creating heaven on earth. To be a Unitarian Universalist also means we're not alone in the work. We are not alone because of our promises to love one another. We are not alone because we are companions on the journey. We grow ourselves into allies, helping one another get free, because none of us is truly free until we are all free. Let us rise and body your spirit to sing our opening hymn, number 168, One More Step. The words and music are in the gray hymnal. And please remain standing as we sing and say our words of affirmation.
This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God. Good morning. I am Terry Dixon. I use he, him pronouns. And as always, I am deeply honored to be your ministerial intern here at First Parish. I thank you, as always, for that trust. And I must say, I am feeling very full today. Full of the Spirit, of course, but also, I must say, full in my stomach. So thank you so much to everybody who brought the food over for breakfast today. It was really scrumptious. Thank you so much. And we are a people of deep joy and great sorrow. So now we share the things that weigh deepest on our hearts, our joys and sorrows. You can submit your joys and sorrows online, or else in this book that is kept at the back of the sanctuary. And in between our sharing of sorrows and joys, we will sing "There is a Love," which is printed in your order of service. So these are the sorrows of our congregation. Tina Hyland has a sorrow that her husband, Ted Hyland's brother, passed away from cancer this week. So we hold Tina and Ted and their whole family in our hearts. And so let us sing, "There is a Love Holding Me." And these are the joys of our congregation. First of all, we have a joy from Kevin that they have friends performing in 2 different musicals, and he got to see both of them this weekend. So we share in that joy. And we have 2 birthdays to celebrate as well. First of all, Larry Bassett raises up that Larry Decker celebrated his 90th birthday on Monday. And also that Dorothy Moody had her 100th birthday. So congratulations to them all. No, we don't have 100 candles, I'm sorry. We'll have to make do with just the one. So let us now sing, "There is a Love Holding Us." There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding us. We rest in this love. Thank you. I'd just like to also recognize that there are joys and sorrows that are perhaps too personal to be spoken out loud or otherwise remain held in our hearts, but which are no less important. So we light one more candle to honor those too, and yet a final candle for all those people who do not have a community like this in which to share their joys and sorrows. Thank you, Kevin. And now, I would like to invite you into a time of contemplation, prayer, meditation. So please settle into your seat, feeling yourself supported by the earth beneath you. Take a deep breath and sink down into your body as you center yourself in quiet reflection. We call upon that great mystery, which goes by many names and yet transcends all names, that can be approached by many paths, but is also the path itself. That ever-present and yet often elusive spirit of life and love, which sustains us and enables each of us to love and be loved, just as we are, in our essential humanity. We give thanks to this community for all the joys and blessings in our lives, and all those beings and things that give our lives purpose and meaning. We are also deeply grateful for the love, compassion, and kindnesses, large and small, that we receive on a daily basis. May we never forget these things or take them for granted. And we lift up those afflictions, sadnesses, and heavy feelings, the difficulties, griefs, and worries that weigh on people's hearts and minds. Although we all suffer in different ways, the suffering in its essence is the same. And when one suffers, we all suffer. May all who suffer find support and solace, and by sharing our troubles in loving community, may those troubles be lessened through togetherness. May all afflicted by disease, illness, or pain, and those struggling to live into new realities in their lives, be comforted and find relief. May all who are experiencing grief or loss feel nurtured and consoled. In these days of great fear and uncertainty for so many people in our country and the world, I lift up and echo the courageous prayer of the Right Reverend Marianne Edgar Buddy in the National Cathedral earlier this week. As Bishop Buddy said, "May God grant us the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, to speak the truth to one another in love, and to walk humbly with each other and our God for the good of all people in this nation and the world." May we too, in this community, remain committed to speaking truth to power. May our pulpit always continue to confront those who bully. And may we always find ways to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. For that is our duty as a people of faith. And now I would invite you to join in a further minute of silence for your own personal reflection or prayer. Please breathe into this space of holiness, this time of peace, this loving community. This is a time simply to be and to be held. May all which is holy and sacred hold these prayers and contemplations, both spoken and unspoken, with tenderness and compassion, and help us live better into beloved communities of respect and justice for all, especially those most marginalized and at risk. Amen, and blessed be.
Our weekly offering to support the prophetic and practical work of this church will now be gratefully received. Please note that we now have QR codes in the pews if you prefer to give electronically. And if you already gave during the family service, please feel free to let the basket pass you by. We deeply appreciate your gifts of support. What is given in generosity and grace is accepted with gratitude and respect. Thank you for your donation, and may this community be ever worthy of your love and generosity. Earlier in the family service, we heard a version of the story of the 3 questions by Leo Tolstoy, as retold by John Muth. We thought you might also like to hear the original story, so here goes. Once upon a time, a king realized that if he could always know the right time to do something, the right people to listen to, and above all, the most important thing to do first, he would never fail in anything he might undertake. So the king offered a great reward to anyone who would teach him what was the right time for every action, who were the most necessary people, and how he would know the most important thing to do. Many learned people came to the king, but they all answered his questions differently. On the first question, some said that to know the right time for every action, one must draw up a detailed schedule. Others declared that it was impossible to know in advance the right time for every action, but one should pay attention to everything that was going on and then decide when to act. But some others said that, however attentive the king might be, it was impossible for one person to decide correctly the right time for every action, and so he should appoint a council of wise people to advise him. The answers to the second question were equally varied. Some said the people the king needed most were his counselors, others said his generals, and some others said the priests. And to the third question, as to what to do, some replied that the most important thing to focus on was science. Others said it was skill in warfare, and yet others that it was religious worship. Since all the answers were different, the king didn't know what to do. So he went to consult a wise old hermit who lived deep in the woods. The king knew the hermit would only talk with common folk, so he put on simple clothes and, leaving his bodyguard at the edge of the woods, went in alone. As the king approached the hermit's hut, the wise man was digging in his garden. Seeing the king, he greeted him, but went on digging. The hermit was old and weak, and each time he stuck his spade into the ground, he breathed heavily. The king went up to him and said, "Wise hermit, I have come to ask you 3 questions. How can I learn to do the right thing at the right time? To whom should I pay most attention? And what things are most important and need my attention first?" The hermit listened, but said nothing. He just spat on his hands and continued digging and wheezing. "You are tired, old man," said the king. "Let me take the spade and dig a while." "Thanks," said the hermit, and he gave the spade to the king. After a while, the king stopped and repeated his questions, but the hermit still gave no reply. The king continued to dig. 1 hour passed, and another, and the sun began to sink behind the trees. Finally, the king stopped digging and said, "Listen, my friend, I came to you for answers to my questions, but if you have none, simply say so, and I will return home." Just then, a strange man came running out of the woods. He fell on the ground, moaning feebly. The king and the hermit undid the man's clothing, and there was a large wound in his stomach that was bleeding profusely. The king washed the wound as best he could and bandaged it with his own shirt. When the blood finally stopped, the king gave fresh water to the wounded man, carried him into the hut, and laid him down on the bed to rest. Tired from his labors, the king then fell asleep on the floor beside the man. When the king awoke in the morning, the man was staring intently at him. "Forgive me," said the man. "You do not know me, but I am an enemy of yours. I swore to revenge myself on you because you killed my brother and seized his property. I was planning to kill you in these woods, but you did not come back, and your guards found me and wounded me. I escaped, but I would have bled to death if you had not treated me. I wished to kill you, and you saved my life. Please forgive me." The king was glad to make peace with his enemy and to gain him as an ally. He not only forgave the man, but said he would send his own physician to attend him and promised to restore his property. Leaving the wounded man, the king went outside to look for the hermit and to beg him once more to answer the questions. The hermit was sowing seeds in the garden beds that the king had dug the day before. The king said, "For the last time, wise old man, I pray you answer my questions." "But you already have the answers," said the hermit. "What do you mean?" asked the king. "Do you not see?" replied the hermit. "If you had not pitied my weakness yesterday and had not dug those beds for me, but instead had gone about your way, that man would have attacked and killed you. So the most important time was when you were digging the garden, and I was the most important person at the time, and to do good for me was your most important business. And afterwards, when that man ran to us, the most important time was when you were attending to him. For if you had not bound up his wounds, he would have died without making peace with you. So he was the most important man, and what you did for him was your most important business. Remember then, there is only one time that is important, right now. This is the essential time because it is the only time when we have any power. The most necessary person is the one before you, For if you do not know if you will ever have dealings with another person, for you do not know if you will ever have dealings with another person. And the most important thing is to do good for that person, because that alone is the purpose for which you were sent into this life.
So here we are. This is the 7th day of the new golden age of America. Or perhaps is the age of iron pyrite. Just fool's gold. We'll see. And it has been quite a week. Each day we've witnessed, as Dana Milbank wrote, a crush of vindictive, cruel, blatantly unconstitutional, and just plain bonkers orders and actions. Almost every hour, the new administration gleefully issues pronouncements that resonate meanness, inhumanity, and a lack of any compassion, let alone mercy. These actions and the fundamental heartlessness behind them violate our basic values as Unitarian-Universalists. And, as Bishop Buddy and others made clear, the essential message of all other wisdom traditions as well. On one level, some of the actions seem absurd and almost farcical, at least if you're not the one being targeted or likely to suffer any real consequences. For example, I found out on Monday that, despite what I thought, I may not be a citizen of the United States. Almost 60 years ago, I was born on Long Island, New York. And at the time, my father was teaching at Adelphi University on a Fulbright scholarship. So my parents were in the country legally, but only on a temporary basis. They were not citizens or green card holders. So regardless of what the 14th Amendment says, I'm apparently not automatically entitled to American citizenship. But then I'm in good company, as Kamala Harris doesn't qualify either, since her mother was also here on a student visa when the former vice president was born. You see, folks, birtherism is alive and well in America. But at least for now, the practical consequences of the executive order denying birthright citizenship are only prospective. And plus, a federal judge, one appointed by President Reagan, has temporarily blocked enforcement. So I reckon I can hang on to this for a while. And let's be frank. I am a straight, cis, white man. I am not the kind of person that this order is targeting. We all know this. I am not the other that this administration seeks to demonize and marginalize. No, this declaration is aimed primarily at people of color who, regardless of whether their parents are undocumented or in this country illegally, are deemed not worthy to be citizens because of who they are and where their parents came from. Those are the other, the lesser, the scapegoat on whom we can blame the country's supposed ills. Yes, the impact of the administration's cruelty will fall disproportionately on those who are already marginalized in this society. Racial minorities, specific ethnicities, the poor, and LGBTQ folks. For example, Fee my daughter's fiancé and my soon-to-be child-in-law is non-binary. Like other trans non-binary people, they were told this week that a fundamental part of who they are would no longer be recognized by the federal government. Their gender identity, their essential lived reality, was erased. And they were told they would only be deemed worthy if they conformed to whatever sex they had been assigned at birth, or rather, supposedly set at conception. For example, the government will no longer issue them a passport with the gender-neutral X marker, or in any way recognize them as anything other than a cis person. And why? As scientists will tell you, the assertion that there are only two sexes, exclusively male and female, and that those are fixed at conception, ignores basic biology and genetics. And more importantly, in what way does Fee being non-binary harm anyone? Of course it doesn't. But the policy is not about logic or truth. It's about dogma. It's about isolating and marginalizing. It's about denying the basic humanity of another person for political ends. Cruelty is the policy. But we know better. No executive order can eliminate the reality of a person's existence or their essential humanity. The truth is that trans and non-binary people do exist. They have existed throughout history and always will. The order claims that gender fluidity is an identity-based, inchoate social concept that should be replaced by the fixed biological reality of sex. But the real inchoate social concept is not recognition of the truth of multiple gender identities, but rather denial that trans people exist. But they do. They are in our communities, our congregations, our families. Trans people are not transient. They are not going anywhere. And more importantly, their inherent worth is sacrosanct and sacred. Trans people are divine. As Unitarian-Universalists, we declare that Fee and all other trans and non-binary people is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. That is what equity means. That is what our shared values mean. So, what else should we make of this week? As the book of Hosea puts it, we have sown the wind and inherited the whirlwind. We are being subjected to a calculated campaign of shock and awe, Sturm und Drang, a blitzkrieg of bewildering orders, contradictory messaging, and obscuration. We are being deliberately confronted with weapons of mass distraction. Make no mistake, this is intentional. The point is to confuse and disorientate. The goal is to flood the zone and render any resistance futile by overwhelming people and preventing them from focusing on how best to respond. And I must admit, there have been times this week when I too have succumbed and found myself doom-scrolling into the slough of despond. So, how can we best counter these tactics? How can we find our bearings amid this maelstrom of malice and mendacity? How do we overcome the malaise of numbness? And above all, how do we avoid wallowing in a valley of despair, thinking there is nothing we can do and that our individual efforts are pointless? First, we must recognize that collectively we have been here before. Although these specific threats to our values may be fresh and different, the essential challenge is not new. These are dark times. But we've been in dark times before. And as a people of faith, a people of principles, a people who always side with love, we shall overcome this too. The struggle for greater freedom and liberation for everyone without exception, is ongoing and perhaps never ending. But collectively, we can still make progress. In a bizarre twist of fate, Monday was not just Inauguration Day, but also Martin Luther King Day. I Have a Dream meets a new national nightmare. In 1968, Dr. King, like Bishop Buddy, spoke at the National Cathedral. Paraphrasing Theodore Parker, he famously said that we shall overcome because the arc of the moral universe is long and it bends towards justice. Now, my faith in that spiritual touchstone has been severely tested of late, but I do still believe we can bend that arc towards justice, provided we all pull on it as hard as we can. After all, as Dr. King also said, we must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. None of us is obligated to work on everything or to finish the entire job, but each of us must do our part. This poster hangs in Reverend Aaron's office. The quote is loosely taken from the Pirkei Avot, a collection of rabbinical teachings in the Jewish tradition. Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. Yes, each of us has a moral obligation, a spiritual duty to do what we can to lessen grief and suffering in the world, and to find ways to affirm the inherent worthiness of all people, no matter how small our individual acts may be. But it is also an ongoing and collective effort. Or, as a post I saw the other day said, "What can I do? I'm just one person," said 7 billion people. Yes, the secret to our success is our collective struggle and through organizing. And I suggest that our reading today can provide us with wisdom and practical guidance on how to best focus our efforts, both individually and collectively. Like the king in Tolstoy's story, we all think that if we could only know when to act, who the most important people are to listen to, and above all, what we should do first, we would be totally set. If we just had those answers, we could act boldly and effectively without any doubts or fear of failure. But as the wise hermit understood, we already have those answers in our hearts. There is only one time to act. In this present moment, in the fierce urgency of now, as Dr. King put it. After all, as it also says in the Pirkei Avot, if not now, when? And the most important person to help is the one right in front of you. Sure, there may be others who also need help, and you can help them later. But that person is the only one who counts in this moment. And the most important thing to do is to do good for them in whatever way you can. Because, as Tolstoy writes, that alone is the purpose for which you are sent into this life. So, in the days and weeks to come, may each of us find ways, in whatever way we can, to help those who need help, right here, right now. May we grant ourselves the grace to pause amidst the turmoil, breathe into this present moment, and focus not on the enormity of the world's grief, but simply truly see the person who is in front of us and do what we can to help them. Because lifting up the inherent worth of that person and helping them flourish with dignity is how we resist oppression in this moment and every moment. Amen. And blessed be. And now I would invite you to rise in body or spirit and sing our closing hymn, which is number 169, We Shall Overcome. The words and music are in the grey hymnal. As we extinguish our chalice, I leave you with these final words. In these difficult and scary times, may each of us find ways to be grounded and remain in touch with our true selves. the best people we can be. Let us never forget our own humanity, nor the essential humanity of every other person in our world. May we have the wisdom to see what needs to be done, and may we have the compassion and courage to do what we can for whomever we can, right now, in this moment. So, as we depart this sacred space, let us create sacred spaces wherever we go. Let us extend and share the love we feel inside these walls out into the wider world. And in so doing, may the quality and purpose of our lived lives be our living benediction. Be at peace and make peace in all you do. And never forget to hold one another in love. Amen. And blessed be.